Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemons, and this is our full season breakdown of What If Season 3. This is simply coming to you well into the new year because A, I gotta go on holiday break too, you guys. Come on, it's Christmas. Also, I got COVID over Christmas, and that's completely on my fault. What was I thinking? Everyone got sick over Christmas. Either way, I'm here to give you a full season breakdown. It might be a pretty long breakdown, so just sit back, relax, and let's find all those little details you might have missed. But first, go check out the latest and greatest in New Rockstars merch. We got a Justice and Punishment shirt for Daredevil Born Again. Go get some of that merch if that's what you want to see more on your body. The Midtown High merch for Spider-Man fans for your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, because that show's coming up. You forgot about it? I bet you did, because you love Spider-Man. Go check out the best and the latest and greatest we got over there at nerdride.shop. It's the best way to support the channel is through the merch. And also, again, it's the new year. There's a lot of conventions coming up. Make sure to get nerd stuff on your body. All right, let's get into it. Episode 1 is titled, What If the Hulk Fought the Mech Avengers? And funny enough, the Hulk doesn't actually fight the Mech Avengers in this episode, but you know, so it goes. The episode opens with a vintage animated title screen for Go Avenger, Heroes of the Gamma War. The Go refers to the Japanese shows such as Go Ranger, the first of the Super Sentai series that would eventually go on to become the Power Rangers. Go means 5, so the Go Avengers is just a nod to the 5 Avengers: Iron Man, Captain America, Hawkeye, Black Widow, and Thor. There's also shows like Go Shogun that features a giant robot named Go Shogun. So there's a similar idea here being made with the giant robot Avenger. This is also likely a reference to Avenger 5, a giant robot Avenger built by the Avenger Idea Mechanics, AIM, after Sunspot took them over and reformed them. And interestingly enough, the Avengers 5 was also used to fight giant monsters, this time the American Kaiju. We learned that in the aftermath of the Gamma War, there was an animated cartoon created. The war was started by Hulk, and later they get into this more, but we learn that Bruce, after attempting to separate the Gamma from inside him, led to him creating another monster, a monster that can create other giant Hulks from his body. The Avengers built this giant mech suit to fight the monsters, and in doing so, most of them died. So this goes down in history as the Gamma War, and like Godzilla, for a while the monsters never come back, until now. In the exposition of the animated Gamma Heroes show, you can see Captain America's motorcycle, which looks like it was designed to be the action figures first. This also feels like the van references the A-Team's van, although it looks like a similar model to Louis' van from Ant-Man. You can see in the fights, they fight Ultron, who has made many appearances throughout this show and this season. They also name drop the 2010 Age of Heroes comics. We also see the Hulk, who has shaggier hair in the 70s and 80s, and this guy kind of reminds me of the Mole Man's monster from the first Fantastic Four comic. With the Avengers, we learn that Tony Stark came up with the idea of the mech suits, which is ironic when in season 1 episode 6, what if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark, Killmonger mentions loving anime and assisted in making the model for an automated combat drone, which Tony comments on being a Gundam model.
Worst case scenario, we'll end up with the world's most expensive Gundam model.
It's just funny this isn't Tony's first time recognizing he could make these super enhanced monster suits. And look at those mech suits, they're just so much fun. Hawkeye's robot has his classic armor. I like that Iron Man wears a very classic design too. It resembles the golden Avenger armor. Even Black Widow's little symbol is on their chest. It's all just so fun. So there on the table you see a box of Captain Munchies with Captain America on it. Clearly it's a play off Captain Crunch. Then the Gamma Beast is revealed to be destroying this young girl's home, and this opening reminds us a lot of Hawkeye when Kate Bishop saw the Battle of New York from that similar ruined apartment. Then we get the iconic intro from What If, beginning with Black Panther, then Captain Marvel, and then we move on to Iron Man, Party Thor, Blonde Widow, Captain America. Then the screen cracks into mini shards with other characters. The mech suits at the top: Kahhori, Kingo, Zeus, Killmonger, Peggy, a Frost Giant, the Watcher, Thanos, and the Hydro logo. Pull out some more, we see Red Guardian, Darcy, Nick Fury, Agatha, Birdie, Iron Man, Monica Rambeau, and just so many others. The shards fall into falling pieces looking like stars in space, reflecting the immense amount of realities. Then the lens flare to the Watcher's eye. So when the Watcher shows up, that's where the story begins, with Sam Wilson and Bruce acting out the same scenario from the 2014 Winter Soldier. Sam does the "on your left" line when Steve did it to him, and Bruce is now in Sam's place. This whole scene has a lot of that shot-for-shot remake of the Winter Soldier sequence. Though I do love that Sam is still introducing himself first and recognizes that Bruce and Steve are the anomaly in the situation. We learn that Bruce is trying everything to de-stress: yoga, knitting, running, and this reminds us all of how in She-Hulk he used meditation to help find that balance, and Emil found his spiritual journey into balancing his transformation. Every Hulk or Hulk-like person is just always searching for balance in their anger and transformation, no matter the universe or reality. Sam Wilson runs a therapy group here, which seems similar to the one he ran in the Winter Soldier. Sam and his sister Sarah and Bruce are on the Paul and Darling, the boat Sam helped fix up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where Sarah was also introduced. After an unfortunate situation on the boat, Bruce then creates the Apex by trying to separate himself from the Hulk. In the comics, Bruce has a lot of different Hulk personalities, and the Apex is kind of similar to Devil Hulk, which was originally Bruce's personification of all his negative emotions. We see the fallen Avengers, which seems weirdly kind of not poetic, but something else. Thor didn't lose his hammer here, he actually lost his arm that wields it, and this happened in Jason Aaron's 2014 Thor comic line. In the flashback, we see the new Avengers ran the Gamma Beast to the end of the world, and the latest Avengers don't look like the ones we're about to get. These suits look a little different. For example, the front one is Sam Wilson, yes, of course, but the ones on the right look like Mephisto and the Punisher? Like, did they die eventually or just leave the group? Now we see our new Avengers are Sam, Monica Rambeau, Bucky, Nakia, Red Guardian, and Melina, Shang-Chi, and Moon Knight. The big screens they're talking on remind us of the screens the Avengers used to talk to each other at the end of Shang-Chi, also similar to the screens Nick Fury used to talk to the Council. And from the back wall, there's a S.H.I.E.L.D. logo, so they're within S.H.I.E.L.D. From a cartoon, Bucky mentions that he learned that Bruce now lives in the center of an active volcano, which if he isn't a villain then, he is now to the public. That's prime real estate for bad guys in all cartoons or all movies. Dr. Evil lived in volcanoes, Syndrome from The Incredibles. It's also just not unknown in anime and mangas to make sure the bad guy always lives in a volcano. Sam and Monica fire back at the Beast, and Sam's shoulder turret fires off rounds, but Monica's fires off like lasers, like her phasing powers. I'm sure this is all done on purpose so their suits not only reflect their colorful patterns and designs, but also replicate similar abilities. After fighting, Sam goes to Astra Islands, abandoned, as it says at the bottom. In the comics, Astra Island is where Bruce tested the nuclear absorbatron, which could absorb nuclear energy. It became the site of a showdown between Hulk, the leader, and the humanoids. The absorbatron could be the abandoned military project Banner references. Also, all of this layout in the background looks like concept art, and it genuinely is the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen. I can't wait for the season 3 art book. It looks like the bomber is right at the edge of the runway, so Banner tied a bunch of vehicles to it to weigh it down so it won't just roll off. Sam is asking Bruce for help since an enormous legion is coming their way, and he says,
"What is it this time? Aliens, spooky wizards, evil gods?"
And likely this references the Chitauri, Doctor Strange, and Scarlet Witch, and Loki and the Eternals. So Bruce has created the mighty Avenger protocol just in case to integrate the Avengers mech suits into a Mecha Avenger to protect the world in case he grew too out of control. Sam then leaves Bruce, and Bucky mentions Colonel Kurtz, which is a reference to Marlon Brando's character in Apocalypse Now, who was a US Army colonel who abandoned his post and went a little insane and set himself up like a cult-like figure among a tribe. Now that the invasion began in New York, they've evacuated the city and we see the gang just going at it. The team lines up in formation. Okay, ladies, now let's get in formation. As the Avengers assembles, Red Guardian mentions how Dreykov would disapprove of them being Avengers now. As some remember, Dreykov was the overseer of the Red Room, the villain in the Black Widow movie, and also Taskmaster's father. As they combine, Shang-Chi's mech has 10 ring-style weapon that ejects and bonds with Moon Knight's. The left arm is Red Guardian's, the torso is Moon Knight, and the right arm of Monica Rambeau. The outward features of this mech suit don't do enough justice to their combined abilities, but it's still superb. Now the music switches to the Avengers soundtrack, and it's pretty good. This weapon that they pull out is actually linked with Moon Knight, hence the crescent shape, but it's Khonshu's staff as well. This weapon resembles a combination of the staff from Khonshu and a Wakandan spear. Also, the holographic shield is a nice touch. My favorite part of kaiju movies are these big fights in the city that's already on fire and seeing the scale difference. We see it in Godzilla vs. Ghidorah, Pacific Rim, just a lot of giant monster movies, and it's a staple in kaiju films to give us plenty of these shots and compositions to show how easy destruction is in our environment. We're just like toys to these gods. In this case, we're a giant toy mech to a Hulk. Bruce drops a Gamma nuke on the Beast, throwing the Gamma Beast in different directions, though they rise back up to the mushroom cloud remnants from the explosion. So now both Gamma Beast and the Apex are now brawling like little kaiju idiots, using similar Godzilla-like attacks, using his tail in combat. Like Godzilla, Hulk uses his atomic breath, I guess Gamma breath. So now after defeating the Apex, Hulk becomes the new Apex Predator, aka Mega Hulk. After a heartfelt plea to Mega Hulk, he walks into the water like the ending of the 2014 Godzilla film and takes the Gamma Beast with him. But we learn they have traveled to the abandoned island and, as I assume, will live peacefully as a bunch of kaijus. Personally, I thought I would have loved this episode, and I didn't. I didn't hate it, please, I mean, look at those suits, but there was a lot of story that wasn't enough fighting for me. It felt like it played a little too close to a 70s animated series, and my attention span is that of an early 2000s child, so I didn't get a lot that I wanted. I didn't need a lot of backstory. I wanted a lot more fighting from the kaijus. It could have even been like a random kaiju from Marvel Comics destroying the city that they had to fix. I would have loved that more. I think this would have probably ate up if it was a special presentation, because if it had more time, it would have been amazing for me. Either way, moving on. Episode 2 is called What If Agatha Went to Hollywood, which should go as no surprise is my favorite episode. Characters, design, and the sequences are just so fun, so let's just get into it. It opens with a vintage Marvel animation title screen. The title screen feels like a glorified Marvel Spotlight tag, but pays homage to the films of the 20s and 30s. The last episode was a pastiche of 80s anime, but now we're going further back in time to the golden age of Hollywood. The guy hitting the gong is an homage to the Gong Men, aka the company trademark for films released by J. Arthur Rank Organization, primarily during the 1940s. This was a British production company, so this homage is probably more familiar to the British audience, but it's funny to think that this would be Stark's American production. The gong also has the same line patterns we associate with the Eternals, with the runes rimming the outer edge. In the Eternals assembled piece, they've mentioned the language created in the movie was implemented in their suits, the costumes, on the ship, on the walls, and they looked at sacred geometry where religious symbols and designs are assigned sacred meaning, and circles and triangles were the most common amongst most religions. They looked at ancient Babylonian cuneiform for like these symbols. Still, according to the production designer, they ended up making their own that say things like star, moon, travel, man, earth, and God, and I assume this is the same execution and the same ideas given here with the designs throughout this episode. The Watcher explains,
"In the beginning, before the 6 singularities and the dawn of creation, came the Celestial."
The Gongman is also styled like a Celestial, so I assume this is the retelling of the beginning. The origins of the Celestials are mostly unknown since they're, ancient cosmic beings. Here it seems as though they follow a higher being, that being Agatha. These symbols and runes around Agatha differ from the Eternals designs. They're like more witchy and Viking runes that we've seen in WandaVision and Agatha all along. These feel closer to the runes from like Loki's title sequence, honestly. This wouldn't be so surprising because his runes have connections to Wiccan mythology, and since Loki is a god of duality, it's conveying Agatha would be as well, as an ancient witch and now harboring the powers of the Eternals. Howard Stark is a film director here, not a scientist. Howard Stark is voiced by Dominic Cooper, who voiced Howard on What If Season 1, Episode 1, and played Howard Stark in the first Captain America movie and the show Agent Carter. That show also canonized the existence of Stark Pictures in the MCU. There, it was more of a tax write-off, but here it appears to be more of a thriving studio. In this episode, Agatha had discovered Tiamat, the Celestial that was set to emerge from Earth in the Eternals. To perform a ritual big enough to siphon the powers of Tiamat, she needed a bigger stage, so she's in Hollywood trying to accomplish this task. When Agatha walks down the stairs, this man with a purple and gold accents walks across the screen. He's wearing an outfit similar to Kingo's from his other movie, Shadow Warrior. We see more of them later, so I guess there was always going to be a Kingo appearing in this movie regardless. Also, purple and gold were the color patterns for the inside of Kingo's jet, his clothes, and his suit in the Eternals. Jarvis, Howard's butler, who was also the character in Agent Carter's show, makes an appearance. Here he's the AD, aka the assistant director. This is the same Jarvis that Tony would name his AI after. James Darcy, who played Jarvis in Agent Carter and in the Avengers Endgame, returns to voice him here. Howard references the famous feuds between the Capulets and the Montagues, Juliet and Romeo's families respectively, and the Hatfields and the McCoys, two real families from the Kentucky and West Virginia area who had an infamous beef in the late 1800s. He also references Humphrey Bogart and Clark Gable and Cary Grant, all leading men of the 40s and 50s. Agatha says she needs Kingo, one of the Eternals, who is undercover as a movie star. We also see Kingo's posters for the Isle of Thunder, and we've seen Kingo posters appear throughout Marvel in Loki Season 2 and What If. I love his legacy, which continues on so many different posters throughout the MCU. You can see the arch that says Stark Pictures, styled after the original gates at the Paramount Pictures lot in Hollywood, mixed with their own modern double gates. And the Hollywood sign is up in the background. In 1949, they would remove the land, so this must be set before then. Howard mentions Busy Berkeley. This was a choreographer and director known for massive dance productions with the kaleidoscope visuals. The film is titled Galactic Queen, with S. Dunson, who is likely a reference to Simon Dudson, a cinematographer who works with Marvel Animation. We begin the picture with some lovely Bollywood choreographed dancing. The song is Jeetai Mehdi, written sung by Gayatri and Benny DL. It's a mix of surgam and scat. Then when Agatha appears, we get a classic 1930s big picture dance scene with Swing King by Pete Thomas playing, and we're clashing the genres here and I just love it. Howard then says this.
All led up to this. The final Eternal Champion arrives.
This is a nod to Kingo's Eternal background. However, this story is Kingo begging to stay Agatha's hand. I assume it's kind of like the Silver Surfer to Galactus, which is such a weird story. The two have a dance off with opposing groups leading into a great tap sequence. Agatha then says the Eternals want to destroy the world. However, Kingo wasn't aware of the Eternals' real mission to prepare the Earth for the celestial emergence in the film, so this is a bit of a change. Kingo then uses his powers, which using the tips of his fingers can create cosmic energy like he did in the movies with his little pew-pews. Agatha then right now uses Thena's shield, and also says she has Makkari's, Gilgamesh's, and everyone else's powers, and we see that play out through the movie. She uses Icarus's eye beams, Makkari's speed, Gilgamesh's strength, and she could have also used the sprite's ability to make the runes appear as illusions. Howard then says the chemistry was hotter than the Hindenburg, which we actually know from Agatha all along, Agatha was at the Hindenburg. We learn Arishem made Kingo the new Prime Eternal, and in the film, Ajax was the Prime Eternal, which means she could speak to Arishem directly, and upon her death, it became Cersei. And I wonder if Kingo was next up if Arishem made him the Prime Eternal after all the other Eternals had disappeared by Agatha. Agatha then uses Sprite's powers to summon other Kingo posters, just showing them off. One says Bengra Time, and Bengra is a style of dance and music. Never Curse, directed by Arjuna Kapoor, which might be a reference to the famous Bollywood actor Arjun Kapoor, and Red Heron, because this is all a red heron. On their deal, Kingo lets Agatha borrow his powers to stop Arishem's plan with Tiamat to destroy the Earth, although no one expected he'd see this coming. This video is sponsored by Helix Sleep. Helix is running an awesome sale right now for a limited time only, so it's perfect time to upgrade your mattress. Visit helixsleep.com/newrockstars for more information. Helix offers 20 unique mattresses, including the award-winning Luxe and Ultra Premium Elite collections, Helix Plus for big and tall sleepers, and the Helix Kid mattresses. Finding your perfect mattress is so easy thanks to Helix's sleep quiz. Just answer a few questions and you'll get a mattress that's the perfect firmness and temperature for you. Helix offers financing options and flexible payment plans so you can get your mattress ASAP, and they have a 100-night sleep trial so you get more than 3 months to make sure that you love your mattress you get. Plus, every mattress has a 10-year warranty. Helix delivers your mattress right to your door with free shipping in the US. The mattress comes rolled up in a little box and is super easy to set up yourself. I love my Helix mattress, I truly do, and I think you would too. If you're looking for a new bed, check out Helix Sleep. Their New Year sale is running now for a limited time, and it's a great time to upgrade your mattress. Visit helixsleep.com/newrockstars to get 25% off your mattress plus 2 free pillows. When Kingo mentions taking their ride to Griffith Observatory, we see the Eternals triangle ship appear in the sky, and what in the hell happened to his car? They also disclose to Jarvis and Howard how Agatha is a witch and Kingo is a space alien, to which he corrects a space robot. As we remember in Eternals, they're basically just mass-produced robots at heart. The candles light up then in Agatha's trademark purple. She says the same spell she tried at the beginning of the episode. This time it works, and she drains Kingo of his powers. Something she's known to do. Now, Agatha has become a Celestial, or something equally as strong. Her dress now wields the same design patterns as the Eternals, which is just very lovely. When Arishem arrives, he kills the power all across the city, and Agatha then punches Arishem straight in the face, which is so iconic. There is no one else I'd love to see beat up a Celestial than Agatha. Agatha shoots energy around Arishem that uses it to bind him, and this sort of similar to how Wanda beat her in WandaVision by covering the dome in runes while Agatha thought she was making regular witchy attacks. Also, you know how Agatha's one to bind someone, even if it's by accident. I like that the symbol created to bind Arishem feels like the beginning of a pentagram, which isn't far off from Agatha being a witch and what she did in Agatha all along. Then Agatha becomes selfish like we know her to be. Now using her powers to take over the world, aka her ego, is too big. Then Kingo speaks to her on an actor level on how they're bigger than this, how the only magic she needs to leave on the world is in the movies, and you know we love movies, so I like this cute little monologue. He gets through to Agatha, and the next thing we know, we're on the red carpet to the Chinese theater for the premiere of Agatha and Kingo's movie. Though it looks like Agatha did in fact kill Arishem, which feels like, yes, a lot more problems for over the horizon. Uatu closes off with the fellow Celestials, Zyron the Tester, Nazar the Calculator, and I think this is Jemiah the Analyzer who appear at the end. And as you know, I love this episode. This episode is my favorite episode. It's very fun. I think this is a good what if, because what if they were just movie stars? Kingo already is a movie star, so take it up a notch. What if he was fighting Agatha? I love this. Now on to episode 3, titled What If the Red Guardian Stopped the Winter Soldier. This episode was written by the former What If head writer AC Bradley and was supposed to be released during season 2, but was pushed back to season 3. They also released a sneak peek trailer for this episode December 30th of last year, the same day AC Bradley announced her leaving. Like the first 2 episodes, this one opens with shots of a TV screen. This opening scene was from the Winter Soldier, except here the Red Guardian stops Tony's parents from being killed. We start the episode with the Red Guardian speaking with Dreykov. The photo I assume right here might be of Taskmaster, but it could be her mother during this time. Dreykov speaks to Karpov on the phone. This was the Winter Soldier's handler and the man Zemo drowned in Civil War. In the MCU, Dreykov would assign Red Guardian to go undercover in America just 1 year later in 1992. The document says top secret and has a Rook chess piece image on it. Red Guardian was annoyed because the mission wasn't as action-packed as the ones he's used to, so this is taking place right before he gets benched from more active roles by Dreykov, which explains why he feels the need to prove himself. In the MCU, he was sent undercover, and here they try to assassinate him. Red Guardian gets pissed when he hears they need the Winter Soldier, saying he's not even Russian.
That piece of Hydra trash!
They don't really talk about the two super soldiers crossing paths in the MCU. Both were employed by Russia, and it feels like they would at some point cross paths. Here, the story is that they worked together, and one of these missions was the attempted assassination of the Starks. The song playing here during the montage is by the Alexandrov Ensemble, who wrote the state anthem of the Soviet Union. The Hydra logo is on the sign of the safe containing the Red Book, which has the Winter Soldier's activation phrases. This is the same one Baron Zemo would later use to activate Bucky, and the phrases is the same too, just translated. It's longing, rusted, 17, daybreak, you know the ones. Winter Soldier also said ready to comply.
Ready to comply.
And in the movie, he said it in Russian instead of English as he does here.
Agatha, what we charge?
Alexei uses the fake name Bob Toledo,
I am Bob Toledo.
who was a college football coach, but I'm not sure if that's what the reference is. The reference could also be the fact that they were stationed in Ohio during Black Widow's movie, and Toledo is a city in Ohio. So there could be two faces of the same coin. We see the night Bucky almost killed the Starks, and Alexei reveals that they were only supposed to steal the serum, not kill Tony Stark's parents.
Whoa! The mission is to steal the fancy serum.
And in a sibling-like debacle, they just fight it out and abandon part of the mission, failing it. Bill Foster from the S.H.I.E.L.D. Science Division is leading the investigation on the attempted murder. He was the character in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Before that, he was part of S.H.I.E.L.D. and worked with Hank Pym on the Project Goliath, and during that time, he could grow to 21 feet tall.
How big did you get?
My record, 21 feet.
Then we meet Ranger Morales, voiced by America Ferrera, who is not connected to Miles' mom, as some have suspected. Then we're with Bucky and Alexei out of costume, where Alexei is being extra about fast food and capitalism.
Seize the means of production. The nuggets of chicken are yours for the taking.
I'm kind of here for it. After stealing a car, they're stopped by Bill Foster, who recognizes something's off with these two because they're acting funny and they look weird. Bucky pulls out his massive gun, and this is the same gun Bucky used in Winter Soldier and the Avengers films. Bill Foster then turns into Goliath, which we've seen before, but the Red Guardian and Bucky then drive off the cliff at the edge of the farm to get away from him, and then we get these quick inserted cuts of different shards, kind of like the beginning, to everyone's reaction of them driving off the cliff, and I really like the sequence. Then it cuts to black, and we come to Morales and Bill Foster looking for the remains, and they come across their Thomas guides. These are atlases of various places in the US, and then it's missing the pages for Vegas. Inside the veterinary clinic, now attending to their wounds, we see their dumb little friendship forming, a bond over sympathy. Then he has Bucky think deep down about who he really is, and then Bucky sees himself at Coney Island. Or at least he sees Coney Island. Bucky mentioned before having gone with Steve to Coney Island and making him ride the Cyclone in the first Avengers movie.
Remember when I made you ride the Cyclone at Coney Island?
Yeah, and I threw up.
This isn't payback, is it?
Then in Vegas, we finally meet the Rook, and it's Obadiah Stane. And you remember Obadiah Stane from the first Iron Man movie, the box of scraps.
With a box of scraps!
He does it better than me, but you get the gist. We learn here that Stane traded the Russians information on Stark's serum, and in return, the Russians were supposed to kill him. So we learn how Alexei has ruined almost every mission, but also why the Russians are now calling a hit on him as well. Then Obadiah Stane shoots at the two, and Bucky tosses the shield at him, shooting him through the window and killing him instantly. He even notes he killed him.
I think I murdered that guy.
I really like that he acknowledges at least like, oh, I killed the guy. Then the police arrive, and so does the Red Room Task Force. Red Guardian lands on his shield similar to how Steve did in the Winter Soldier. And it's very subtle, but when they're running past people, you can see their 80s outfits and styles. During this fight, I have to ask, are you really a version of Captain America if you're not supporting someone by launching them off your shield? We see Steve do it for Black Widow in the first Avengers movie, then Peggy do it for Black Widow in the last season of What If, and now we're seeing it between Bucky and Red Guardian. When is he gonna launch me off that shield? Then they start brainwashing Bucky again using a sleeper agent code, and when the pressure is entirely built up and we're expecting Bucky to go off, it doesn't stick. It doesn't land. He's now a reformed person. For the most part. The Watcher then comes back in to narrate, and we're back with the Russians, and it's revealed that Alexei is dead, and Bucky's back with the bad guys. But in reality, Alexei is really just a PE coach.
Coach Bob Toledo is here to make you fighters!
But, you know, Bucky is back with the bad guys, I guess. And now it looks like Alexei is working with Bill Foster, and we get the Avengers score again, and the flashback to the iconic scene from the first Avengers movie, where they're all in a circle, lined up. Then Red Guardian interrupts the iconic shot, and it's actually pretty sweet. I did not like this episode. This episode was actually very fun. It was very endearing. I felt like it made more sense in the last season where they were all doing parody of different movies, because this one felt like a little bit of a parody of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas mixed with like something else. I do think their budding comedy parts are very fun for this. And it just makes me more excited for Thunderbolts because I want this conversation to happen of how they not cross paths, and if they did cross paths, what would that look like in the MCU?
It's a Winter Soldier. That guy's so cool.
It was a fun episode, but definitely not as much fun for me as the last. Going on to episode 4, What If Howard the Duck Got Hitched? This episode follows Darcy and Howard after meeting and marrying during What If Thor Were an Only Child?
Well, look who came waddling back. Mrs. the Duck.
Not now, Howard.
In this video, similar to all the other episodes, starts with a screen or a little movie. As the sweet lighted strums of a guitar bring us to a home video, this opening screen is Howard the Duck's camera as their egg is being delivered. Well, physically delivered. However, Howard says he's kvelling.
I'm kvelling. I'm positively kvelling right now.
Kvel is a Yiddish term for joy because he's just so happy to have a baby. The little blanket has little ducks and it's just so sweet. Currently, the baby is just a giant egg. And if you came here for the breakdown on how it's even possible for Darcy to give birth to an egg, let alone procreate with a duck and their hideous sexual organs, I'm not doing that. I'm sorry, you'll just have to Google it because it's gross and I don't want to get into it. Kiss, I Was Made for Loving You starts playing, a very classic song. Then the Watcher reminds us their backstory. They show the two getting married, facilitated by a Vegas Elvis, and as he officiates the wedding, he's reading a book titled Love Me Tender, which is just one of Elvis's songs. At home, putting the baby to bed, they can't stop singing Kiss, and their neighbor bangs on the wall yelling at them.
Hey, baby.
Hey,
The neighbor in the closed captions is named Miss Switzler, and there's a Bev Switzler in Marvel Comics who is featured mainly with Howard the Duck, oftentimes as his girlfriend. Once the baby's in bed, they sit down and relax with a green elixir. Wicked. This actually is just the signature cup and drink Howard's always drinking, and now Darcy's in on it. Also, the little duck slippers and the shirt. She loves ducks. They're interrupted by a knock at the door, and it's Topaz, the Grandmaster's head guard. So now the Grandmaster has basically a cruise ship, and he's offering an all-expense-covered little trip for the two, which is in no way, sketchy or suspicious. The Grandmaster's holographic announcement is also very similar to the ones he gave throughout Thor Ragnarok. Darcy's looking through the pamphlet of things to do while on the cruise, and there's a couple's cliff dive on Vormir, which you could say was what Clint and Natasha did first, but, now she's dead, so it's not really a good sign to do it. It doesn't make it better that Howard says this.
Oh, yeah, they say you can only truly appreciate it with someone you love.
Damn, because those two loved each other and one of them died. She also mentions these lava boat rides.
A lava boat ride through the canals of Muspelheim.
Which is in Norse mythology, and Marvel Comics was one of the 10 worlds in the realm of eternal fire that was home to Surtur. The Grandmaster beams them up with his own Bifrost, which doesn't feel right. Does that mean he has the sword, or does he, where did he steal that from? Because on Sakaar, they don't really deserve a Bifrost. Grandmaster then invites them to the Grandmaster brunch, and let me tell you, the menu is clearly alien gibberish, no offense. It's not Xandarian, it's not Skrull, it's hard to place the design exactly. Luckily, Howard's phone can translate it, and the translation overlay looks just like Google Translate. Chef cooking the meal is actually Meek, and their little name tag also says Meek. If you zoom in, you can see it. Luckily, Yondu comes in before anyone tries to eat or cook this baby after shooting an arrow at the Grandmaster, but then he steals the baby, so it's not really luckily he showed up, because he still took the baby. Going after him, we see the same ship that Thor steals in Ragnarok. It's the Grandmaster's pleasure yacht, now used to get the baby back. More like the baby yacht. Fury and Coulson are back working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and Darcy calls them for help. This is when they discuss the Cosmic Convergence. The Convergence was a cosmic event that happened every 5,000 years when all 9 realms are placed into alignment. So we learn that the Ravagers are working with the Collector and they're on their way to Nowhere. And Nowhere is the disembodied head of the Celestial and a location to the Guardians of the Galaxy in the movies. The Celestials are just running rampant this season. We also meet Karina, the Collector's slave in Guardians of the Galaxy. She does the same awkward bow thing here, and she died in that movie, but glad to see that she outlived the Collector. So, a win's a win. Cassilius from Doctor Strange 1 is also here. His eyes are all scarred up, so we know he's been reading the Book of Cagliostro already. This is the book from Doctor Strange that taught him how to draw energy to the Dark Dimension and contact Dormammu. So the Whispers from the Dark, capital D, that refers to Dormammu. Cassilius says the Collector is now trapped in the Mirror Dimension, which we've seen in the first Doctor Strange movie. The Ancient One said that they use this to train, surveil, and sometimes contain threats, so it makes sense to toss the Collector in there because he's the #1 threat. Keeps stealing people. Yondu said he's getting offers on the egg from the Dark Elves, elves and an Olympian god. The Dark Elves were the villains in Thor: The Dark World. We also see them showing up later. And the Olympic god is Zeus, who I think he's referring to, who shows up also a little bit later. Russell Crowe played him in Thor: Love and Thunder, if you remember. Kaecilius says Dormammu does not come to bargain, which is a reference to the first Doctor Strange movie, when Doctor Strange said repeatedly, Dormammu, I've come to bargain. We should play a clip, because I sounded horrible saying that.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
That probably sounds better than when I was doing it, but this is when he locked him in that infinite time loop. We get a glimpse of Dormammu, who looks actually exactly the same as he did in the film, and it looks really, really cool animated. They're planning to use the baby as a vessel for Dormammu, which is literally the most insane thing to do, and Darcy even mentions it's like a Rosemary Baby situation, which it absolutely is. Khonshu would never. I also really like this scene with Seth Green where they have this conversation.
I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. the Duck, but S.H.I.E.L.D. can't entrust a being this powerful to a first-time mom and a gambling addict.
Hey!
Recovering gambling addict, thank you. I got the chip. That's the wrong chip.
I'm pretty sure those are the chips used in the underground casino last season. The egg falls through a series of sling ring portals created by Kaecilius. He's also now using the Sith daggers that we saw him use in Doctor Strange's first movie. In season 1, episode 7, it was revealed that this universe's Loki was never adopted by Odin, but returned to the Frost Giants. Thor and Loki were really close friends, and Loki showed up to his party, the same one where Darcy and Howard met. So they're now in Jotunheim, and look at how small they are in those Frost Giant chairs. I like the idea of Jotunheim just being a resort. There's so many resorts. Why do gods need resorts? Aren't they relaxed enough? That god in Thor: Love and Thunder was relaxed enough, until he got killed. Loki then says this.
What are you talking about? You're my brother from another mother's old lady's sister from another mister.
Brother from another mother is also what he called Thor back in the Only Child episode, and it made a bit more meta sense there, but it's okay. It's funny to play it again here. And lo and frickin' behold, Zeus arrives. Literally everyone wants this cosmic baby, and I don't understand why everybody wants this cosmic baby. Malekith, the leader of the Dark Elves, arrives. He's coming for that egg as well, and he was played by Christopher Eccleston in the films, my favorite Doctor. Thanos' Black Order show up. Originally, they didn't want the baby, but when they heard it was a magic baby, then they wanted that baby. Ebony Maw, Cole Obsidian, Proxima Midnight are here. Not sure where Corvus Glaive is, but the other three are. This scene kind of reminds me of the Endgame final battle where Avengers and all are trying to keep the gauntlet away from Thanos and his army. Everyone is fighting, every single team, and it's all just such insaneness. All of this for a cosmic baby who is then called up through the Bifrost. Luckily though, Zeus uses Thunderbolt on the ship. The Grandmaster also called Zeus Sparkles, which is the nickname he gave Thor.
Wow, I didn't hear any thunder, but out of your fingers, was that like sparkles? Hey, Sparkles. Sparkles.
Oh no, we're going down.
When Thanos arrives through the portal, it might be one of the funniest scenes as well. Let me play you the clip.
Stones? Is this about the stones? Have you found them? Where are they? An egg? You called me for an egg? It's magical?
This scene is so funny. I was dying because all Thanos wants are those stones. He don't care about no baby. Clearly, he don't care about no baby unless he's stealing them from planets, making them fight, taking off their limbs. I'm talking about Nebula. Luckily, Howard catches the egg that's falling mid-air and everyone falls off this cliff. And this feels kind of like an homage to the cliff scene in 300. Now left alone for a small moment while everyone storms their way, Howard and Darcy embrace, sing, and kiss. And in this small moment, their family is not being chased by everyone in the galaxy. Then the egg lights up and lifts to the sky, beaming like the sun, which doesn't stop anyone, but luckily, the lightning egg fights back. They continue singing in hopes the song is encouraging the egg to fight back for her family, and it's a sweet notion, and I'm just here for it. Then the baby hatches, shooting its last beams of light at everyone, I think killing them instantly. This final light burst is also very similar to the Ark of the Covenant opening in the Raiders of the Last Ark. We don't see the full face melt, but the lightning does start shooting out of their eyes. The baby has blue feathers and human everything else, and now home, they lay their baby down for bed, and like new parents, they try to sneak away after putting the baby down, and immediately they hear her scream and cry. Parenthood. I really liked this episode. I thought it was really fun. I don't feel like a lot of these episodes are so heavy-handed into like the Marvel Cinematic Universe like the last season and the season before that are. I think they're really expanding to different characters and just going along with stories that we kind of wanted closure on or they wanted closure on, more people they wanted to expand on. This is my second favorite episode. I think it was very sweet and it was one of the episodes you could just watch and enjoy. You didn't have to think too hard on it. And now on to the fifth episode titled What If the Emergence Destroyed the Earth? This is the first episode not to begin with a TV screen. What? This episode, if you watch The Break Room, was Eric and Zach's favorite episode. This episode is insane. This episode is set in a universe where the emergence prevented in Eternals was actually successful. On top of that, it seems that Quentin Beck's Mysterio has been in charge of Stark Enterprise for some time. And following the emergence, he took over what was left of the world. He repurposed the Iron Legion, which originally appeared in Iron Man 3, as his enforcers enforcers, though White Vision is also a member, so you know damn well this is an army that you don't want to mess with. As the hooded figure sneaks around machines, we can see posters for Mysterio, but once it's ripped down, we see the Avengers symbol on the wall. There's also another poster on the wall that's a little blurry, but it might be a wanted poster for Bucky Barnes. The figure is revealed to be Dominic Thorne's Riri Williams. Thorne played the character in the live action as well, and also returning is Emily Van Camp as Sharon Carter, the Power Broker. It was revealed to us Carter was the Power Broker in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and she continues as such in this reality. This hotel bar also looks similar to the bar in Secret Invasion where Rhodey and Fury meet. Uatu tells us that Riri Williams is our last hope in every variation of this world, but unfortunately, she fails every single time. This sets up Uatu's eventual intervention later in the episode. This meeting turns out to be a trap, and Riri does this sick switch where she smashes Carter's face with a microwave she came to buy and grabs a part from it and dips out. It's honestly the most wild sequence. I was not imagining Riri Williams punching Sharon Carter with a microwave. Under her hood, she has a makeshift suit of her own, equipped with her heart-shaped light in the chest like in the comics. She's chased by the Iron Legion, many of which are Mysterio's holograms. The effect of the holograms being made from digital blue light is the same way Beck's holograms appeared in Far From Home. It's so cool to see that she doesn't know which ones are real or which ones are illusions. Riri snipes 2 of these illusions in just 1 shot, but unfortunately her weapons just ping off the real ones. The Iron Legion must have gotten a serious upgrade since Tony was able to destroy them easily enough in Iron Man 3, but it's also possible Riri wasn't able to fashion an Ironheart suit with as much power from the scraps she had to work with. Her suit cuts out as she escapes and crashes. It reminds me a lot of the first time Tony tried to fly the first Iron Man and took a nosedive deep into the sand dunes. Then we meet White Vision, who we haven't seen since WandaVision, but he's still just as soulless and programmed as he was before the ship of Theseus scene. Luckily, Riri is saved by the Alliance, and the team consists of Ying-Non from Shang-Chi, Okoye, and of course Wong, Wongers, and Valkyrie. Tessa Thompson returns as Valkyrie, but the others are voiced by other voice actors. Valkyrie flies an Asgardian skiff, which we've seen on Asgard starting in Thor: The Dark World. This implies to me that she either never left Asgard or she went back before it was destroyed, as she never acquired one of these in the MCU before. Then Uatu welcomes us to what's left of Earth in bits and pieces. So it looks like this universe, Tiamat emerged before the Eternals could unite to fight it, and Quentin Beck saw this as an opportunity to take over Stark Industries. Perhaps before the destruction, since he's watching the destruction in the flashback in full costume, which implies Spider-Man never stopped him in Far From Home. Beck then fought the Freedom Fighters with his Iron Legion, and near his final days, Mysterio wanted to make sure the Alliance was dead before he was. Now with their last brigade, he enlists White Vision to end them all. In this flashback, the image of Tiamat emerging from Earth is taken from the vision Arishem gave Cersei in the Eternals, although it's less destructive and doesn't atomize the planet as it did in that scene. You get it. This backpack floating in space also kind of looks like Kamala Khan's backpack, although without all the Avengers swag on it. It's clearly sad to see the remnants of just what people and humanity was left behind floating in space, but it doesn't stop Valkyrie from taking a fat swig, something she was constantly doing in Thor Ragnarok.
Wow.
Finished.
The Alliance reveal they've been spying on Riri, who's making a weapon to defeat White Vision. The weapon would power down vibranium, and this is kind of spot on to Riri's characterization in Wakanda Forever. She created a blueprint for the machine that siphons the bottom of the ocean looking for vibranium that everyone wanted. Then we see the wreck of the Titanic, which doubles as the base for the surviving members of the Alliance, because Vision and the Iron Legion have been wiping out the rest of them. As Vision attacks, the Alliance soldiers get ready to defend. We think the squad leader is actually Brock Rumlow, aka Crossbones, aka the butthole who appeared in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It does look like they use his motto from What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes. Wong uses the Vishanti protection spell that only lasts 7 minutes to hold Vision at bay while Riri's working. The Book of Vishanti was explored in Multiverse of Madness, for those that remember. It's an ancient book of power used by the sorcerers. Before the brawl, Wong calls Vision Casper, which is honestly iconic.
Sorry, Casper. You're not getting through.
Unfortunately, they get their butts kicked by Casper. Like, it's not even close. They get their butts kicked. Riri's able to defeat Vision by reversing the polarity for her weapon, making it work, and the Alliance then dips out. Reversing the polarity is a bit of like techno-babble that's been a running gag in Doctor Who since the 70s, but also appears in like everything.
Reverse it. Reverse what? Reverse the polarity.
Once you hear it, you'll just never unhear it. So now Riri is using Vision's body to equip her with the ultimate suit of armor, which feels honestly horrible. They call it a human synthezoid, even though she's basically just wearing Vision's skin. But I will say, It does look kind of cool on Riri. Design-wise, it looks similar to the Superior Iron Man suit, which was also very liquidy and could mold to your skin, though it was made from a symbiote. When the suit is complete, her eyes also glow blue, just like Vision's did. Now at this open field, we thought this was the Field of Reeds from Moon Knight in the first breakdown we did for the trailer, but it's really just plots of land from the Emergence's aftermath. Riri's neural network isn't connecting, it's frying, disallowing her to see through the illusions, and it's sad knowing that no matter what, in this scene, in this entire episode, this Riri, even if she found a logical solution, is intended to fail. So the neural network not working is just one of many downfalls. After not being able to see the difference between what's real and what's not, she's led right into Mysterio's trap. We see in Spider-Man how Peter Parker favors with the illusions Mysterio made for him. This reality that's really built like Inception is just impossible to win. Beck killed the rest of the Alliance and he allowed Riri to take his tech and led her straight to him. Now he wants Vision's body to live longer. Beck gives this long-winded speech and he just loves giving these speeches mixed in with the illusion world building that he's doing. He did the same thing to Spider-Man in Far From Home. It's interesting to see and compare how Peter and Riri both fight Mysterio, because Riri is incredibly stubborn and more overly confident, hence her attacks are kind of like sporadic but completely heavy-handed. She's not sure if she's punching or landing, but she's going to punch no matter what. Peter was often overstimulated and just looked for a solution with Beck. Mysterio shows her the dead Alliance, which causes Riri to lose hope, and Uatu unfortunately has seen this moment before and says this is where she gives up every single time. He turns away from the inevitable as Quentin takes the synthezoid form, though he encourages her to fight, echoing the sentiment through her body, through her head. In my opinion, I don't think he really intervened here. He kind of just said, go get him, Tiger, but he'll be punished for it anyways. Riri takes back the synthezoid form and phases through Quentin and takes his nanite, shutting down the Iron Legion. Then Riri flies off, proclaiming she's going to give the world a vision of the future, so punny, and exploding her powers into the Avengers symbol like the Batman symbol. Now the world knows there's hope in tomorrow. There's no more dictator. Then we get a word from the Eminence, the Watcher's leader. He's voiced by Jason Isaacs, who has been like in everything. These three are the Order of the Watchers, led by Eminence, Incarnate, and Executioner. Incarnate is voiced by DC Douglas, and he says he's broken his oath again, so they're aware he keeps intervening. The Executioner says we cannot allow this to stand, and he's voiced by Darren DePaul, who also voiced Zeus earlier this season. And that closes episode 5. This episode was a little too much for me to handle. There's a lot going on. Honestly, rethinking about it, rewatching it, it was actually a lot better than I would have subjected it to be. I know that Eric and Zach really love this episode. I love bringing in Mysterio any way that they can keep sneaking in Spider-Man villains. I'm gonna eat it up. And this Mysterio was insane. I love this Mysterio. So good job on this episode. Episode 6 is titled, What If 1872? And like most of the other episodes, it begins with some sort of film. This one has scratches on it and a film burn, so we know we're going back into time. I like that even if it is a different animated like film burn overlaid on this pristine background layout, just looks so nice. Uatu tells us we're in the Old West, the Wild Wild West, and we're at an old church with cowboys who are shooting at this church bell. They forget how many times they shoot the bell and argue because it has been shot 10 times to make the 10 rings. You get it? 10 rings? 10 bells? It's just so nice. This also reminds me of the iconic Dirty Harry scene where he says he forgets how many shots he took. Ringing the bell 10 times calls our boy Shang-Chi, and I just gotta say, again, I just love that it's 10 rings, 10 bells. This episode is filled with returning characters, all voiced by all the live action actors: Haley Steinfeld, Walton Goggins, Simu Liu, Wyatt Russell, and Moon Zhang. The man ringing the bell is John Walker, who we know as US Agent, and Shang-Chi has an old-timey sharpshooting partner, and of course, it's Kate Bishop as Hawkeye. This all makes sense, and I like the idea of it all because, of course, a sharpshooter in the West, Hawkeye, duh. All hell breaks loose and everyone just starts fighting though. Shang-Chi and Kate are searching for the Hood, who in the comics was first introduced in The Hood #1 in 2002. Originally a petty thief, now a supernatural gangster after stealing a demon's hood and boots and gaining the powers of invisibility, levitation, and some magic. He's just a bad guy. You don't want to get roped up with him, and Anthony Ramos will be playing him in Ironheart. We learn that the Hood is headed toward Point Pegasus, a station in the Mojave Desert. This is a reference to the joint dark energy mission facility that housed Project Pegasus. We've seen it in other What If episodes as well as Captain Marvel. This is where they study the Tesseract. Shang-Chi jumps on his horse, whose name is Morris, which yes, is the name of the cute butt animal and pet to Trevor Slattery that appeared in Shang-Chi. We then see Uatu in the 5th dimension, known as the observational plane or the nexus of all realities. We've seen Uatu in here before, mostly during the first season, and it's how he travels in the multiverse. Uatu brings us back in and explains how truly anything is possible. He shows us a picture of alligator Loki trying to eat frog Thor, Throg. We've seen alligator Loki before in Loki season 1. Throg, I believe, first appeared in the comics Thor issue number 365, released in 1985. He then shows us pirates on a ship, and we see versions of Black Widow and a Native American Captain America, but their captain is Brock Rum low, a piece of me immediately saw this and said, it's the Punisher as well, because there's a lot of folks with crossbones. So his moniker, Brock Rumlow's, is Crossbones. So, you know, that's more pirate-like. So this absolutely is Brock Rumlow. We also get to see a Show Tunes Ultron. Uatu says there's one common constant in all these universes, and it's injustice, which for Show Tunes Ultron, I bet he also auditioned for The Greatest Showman and lost to Wolverine. He shows us how Jai Ling's new story was about traveling to the United States in the late 1860s, only to learn that the Hood attacked the immigrants. He created crazy narratives to get people to fear the immigrants. However, she fought back and was never heard from again. When it got out that the Hood caught Jai Ling and her gang, no one cared because they were immigrants. No one but her brother, Shang-Chi. The two heroes then come across a ransacked town that was attacked by the Hood, and the lone survivor, a boy named Jun Fan. Jun Fan is Bruce Lee's Chinese name as well, and a nice little homage to the martial artist on screen. Artist Paul Gulacy, who quickly took over drawing Shang-Chi in Masters of Kung Fu, based the character visually off of Bruce Lee and felt that the Master of Kung Fu was the one way to keep Bruce Lee alive after he died. Jun Fan demonstrates some fighting moves, including Drunken Wasp Sting, which might be a reference to Bruce Lee's first role in The Green Hornet. The boys said they took the town on a ghost train, and ghost trains are also a real part of folklore in America and around the world, except in folklore it's typically a fake train on a real track, not a real train on no track, so here they flipped it. Bishop says the ghost tracks lead to the valley and the Fury Flats, named after Nick Fury. They stay on the lookout, and Kate blinks without closing her eyes because she's always watching like a hawk. When they find the ghost train, it's revealed it's trackless hover train designed by Tony Stark, because in every universe, the Starks gotta stick their big noses into everything. It's even powered by what looks like a larger version of Tony's arc reactor. Once inside the train, they notice they've ransacked other manufacturers of their wares. Stark Munitions, which I assume is Stark Family's company, Hammer Steel, which I believe would be taken after Justin Hammer, one of the Iron Man 2 villains, and Cross Manufacturing, which is likely or could be a reference to Darren Cross's, aka MODOK's company. Inside the train, we meet Sonny Birch, who is voiced by Walton Goggins. We meet Sonny in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and look, Walton Goggins is constantly on a roll and getting everything he wants this year, and honestly, getting him to return as Sonny is just so great. Sonny references Shang-Chi as the Fist of Fury, which is another Bruce Lee reference. When everyone points their guns at Kate, they recreate the John Wick 2 poster, which in itself was a reference to a poster from the 1918 film called Two Gun Gussie, which was fittingly a Western. We come face to face with the Hood. Shang-Chi starts fighting them around snow and fire. Luckily, the Hood may have powers of invisibility, but they still leave their tracks in the snow. Shang-Chi hits him with a 1-2, then it gets revealed that the Hood is actually Jai Ling. The Hood came for Jai Ling, and she defeated him and took his powers. This Hood is actually kind of just like, you know, sisterhood of the traveling caping it. Her hooded look also calls back to her appearance as the start of Shang-Chi in the cage match, which incidentally, she also won. While this is happening, Sonny is hypnotizing Kate with a pocket watch. He says he got this pocket watch from a man in Russia, and he adjusted it with a little lullaby tune. In the underappreciated TV show Agent Carter, there was a Russian doctor named Johann Fenoff, their version of Dr. Faustus from the comics, who would hypnotize people, and this could have come from him. Sonny says to Kate that your parents' fortune went a long way to funding this here venture of ours. In the Hawkeye show, Kate also had a very rich parent. Her mom also funded criminal enterprises, though in that show, she was in the league with Wilson Fisk. Could have probably been Sonny Birch if she was on the West Coast, let's be for real. Jai Ling uses this rope dart that she had in the movie, and she reassures Shang-Chi she's doing this for a good reason by turning the immigrants into an army and making a world that they were promised, which, my girl, free will, have you heard of it? The little boy rings the 10 rings, distracting Sonny and his goons, allowing Kate to shoot off rounds and empowering Shang-Chi to get right back up. Shang-Chi tries to reach to his sister in a heart-to-heart moment, but it's not working, and Jai Ling goes in for the kill, and Kate shoots her first, and she dies in her brother's arms. Unlike the beginning of the episode, Kate is shooting to kill now, and they just let the Hood blow away. Now someone else is gonna use it. At the end, we see Jun Fan telling the story of the incredible 10 rings, stories that will run through history. He performs the moves as he tells the story, making him a kind of proto-Bruce Lee martial arts entertainer. Kate says he's got some iron fist on him, and with his great fighting skills, I think this is a layup to the boy eventually becoming maybe Iron Fist, who we remember from the Netflix series or from the comics. Before they ride off, Shang-Chi tells Kate that the sun's getting real low, which calls back to how Natasha would calm down the Hulk, and that's it for this episode. I do kind of enjoy this episode. I think it's very fun. I like the Western. It was just a little chaotic, fun episode, as much as it was for the second episode. It's just kind of like, let's have fun. The stakes weren't that high. Let's just have fun. Moving on to episode 7. This is like a two-parter. This is titled, What If the Watcher Disappeared? which he doesn't really disappear. We actually hear from him a lot. We jump right into the action with a tentacle monster attacking the Nova Corps on Xandar, who are flying in the yellow star blasters, both of which first appeared in Guardians of the Galaxy 1. They also appeared in the last season of What If Nebula joined the Nova Corps. They're trying to protect Nova Prime, which is the highest ranked title if you remember. Nova Prime is revealed to be Nebula, who must have gotten some serious promotion after the events of What If Nebula joined the Nova Corps. Her team is still with Groot and Korg, same as it was that episode. An egg-like vessel lands and pops out Captain Carter. This vessel is the Time Sphere, the one similar to the one that Kang uses in Quantumania. If this is that machine, this might subtly imply that Peggy and her squad wiped out the Kangs, which is why we may never see or hear from them again. Peggy refers to the tentacle monster as the champion of Hydra, and Red Skull summoned the same tentacle monster in season 1 episode 1, leaving it up to Peggy to defeat it. Then it later came out in the future with Peggy with all its like loose tentacles. Then evil Doctor Strange summoned it again back in season 1 episode 4, and that's why it seems weird to just kill him so quickly at the beginning of this episode. This character has shown up so many times. Peggy has a team which consists of Kahhori, who was brought back from the last season, Birdie, the duck, who is Darcy and Howard's baby. Peggy recruited her to the Guardians of the Multiverse, which is a perfect thing to do. And lastly, Storm, the goddess of thunder, who wields Mjolnir, which also isn't really unheard of. In the comics, Storm at times had Stormcaster, an enchanted hammer created by Loki, and she wielded Mjolnir herself at one point. When Storm arrives, you can hear Storm's theme from X-Men 97 start to play. Peggy is still voiced by Haley Atwell, Kahhori is still voiced by DeVry Jacobs, and Storm is voiced by Alison Seeley Smith, who voiced Storm in X-Men 97. And Natasha Lyonne is voicing Birdie, who will also voice Herbie in the Fantastic Four movie as well. The three immediately take action, running, flying, sprinting through the tentacles. Storm shooting Peggy through one eye and out the other, immediately murdering the monster. Then shards from the Watcher's dimension fall to their feet, which means the Watcher ain't watching. Fittingly, our intro is also not spoken by Uatu, but by Eminence. This intro isn't as colorful as usual, it's dull. And this is the first time Uatu hasn't introduced us into the episode.
I preserve the sanctity of the multiverse by observing those who are sworn to watch over it, watching the Watchers, to ensure they do not dare ponder the most dangerous question of all.
He then reminds us how Uatu helped Peggy Carter and now she meddles in the multiverse, and how he's now being held accountable for his actions. The Eminence calls this group a bunch of exiles. This is also the name of a group of Marvel characters in the comics formed from different universes or realities. They first appeared in Exiles #1 in 2001. Back in their spacecraft home, it actually feels like Carol's in the Marvels. Birdie and Kahhori play foosball, and the little players are characters from the comics and the movies. Here we see Loki, Ultron, Thanos, Magneto, Proxima Midnight. From left to right, we also see Kang, Baron Zemo, and Red Skull. And facing away from us, you can see Wolverine, Iron Fist next to Luke Cage, because they're besties, of course. Beta Ray Bill, who previously appeared as a statue on Sakaar. Scarlet Witch, Sue Storm, Black Panther, Rogue, She-Hulk. Then there's Doctor Doom, Iron Man, and Galactus, of course. They need to travel to the Watcher's homeworld, and Birdie upgrades the ship to enable such power. We get this fun montage, and I'm so proud of Darcy and Howard's creation. This part where it says the money is Howard the Duck, or should we just call it Scrooge McDuck? Then we see Storm's attempt. Her room has custom flags with Mjolnir surrounded by ribbons which end in circled X's, referencing her X-Men roots. When that fails, Kahhori recommends asking Ultron Vision for help. Normally, across realities, Ultron Visions get the Infinity Stones, kill everything in their universes, and then just sit there since they never hear from the Watcher again. The plan is to have Birdie try to reprogram the AI of Ultron and open a portal to the 5th dimension. To protect against Ultron Vision leaving his universe, Storm recommends using the reset charges they stole from the TVA. The reset charge was the device used by the TVA to prune branch timelines. As they prepare for their journey ahead, we see glimpses of their past. One is a photo of the Guardians of the Multiverse. We see Gamora, Black Widow, Storm, Birdie, Thor, Peggy, T'Challa, and Kahhori. These folks helped in the Battle of the Multiverse season 1, minus, Strange, Killmonger, and Zola. Then we get a flashback of Ultron orchestrated attacks, getting the stones, creating his own legion, and making his own ship. We see him wipe out Avengers Tower, Asgard, Star-Lord, Drax, and Gamora, and the Sovereign. This looks like the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, actually. Korg and the Grandmaster on Sakaar, Xandar, and Captain Marvel. Now alone in his universe, Peggy shows up, and it's been eons since he destroyed everything and everyone. Back on the ship, though, we see a full view of Howard and Darcy harassing Birdie like parents are one to do, and we learn here that Darcy created this trans-universal communicator to keep in touch with her daughter. A reminder here that Darcy is also a genius. They go to Ultron's universe to save Peggy, and once there, they immediately fight him, assuming that he killed Peggy when she arrived. But then they learn that the Order of the Watchers kidnapped Peggy. Like most of every episode this season, we end with a reassuring monologue on how the villain has changed their mind and motives, so now as a good guy, Ultron Vision can lead the group to the Watchers and save Peggy and Uatu. Powered up with the 5th dimensional shard, they blast off, and we hear that money makes a slot machine winning sound. Cute. Immediately going into episode 8 titled What If? What If? It's the show's final episode, the series finale. We open with Uatu gazing at everything, and it's a flashback to how Uatu became a Watcher. He was a Watcher disciple and who the Eminence saw skill in, along with his lack of fear to sacrifice. The Eminence chose to make him a full-on Watcher, granting him the abilities that a member of the Order has. Now he can see the shards of reality, and we see Strange, Thor, and the Hydra Stomper. Then we cut to the Order proclaiming, "You failed us!" So now he has to be held accountable, for all the actions he did in the past. Uatu argues he shared his knowledge with heroes, and they counter with, "Was Strange a hero?" Which, arguably, they got a good point. There's also a flashback to him destroying the universe and recreating the universe he once destroyed. Then they remind him how he helped Riri 3 episodes ago, which he argued he only did once. My dude, you're not winning this. They say he helped June Fawn, the child from Shang-Chi's episode, Reed Richards, which we didn't see, and Nick Fury and some girl named Madison with 2 N's and a Y, but it's not where you think. A running joke that I'll never forget, or Tyra from She-Hulk. Also, Watch Madison had just drunkenly made her way to the 5th dimension and he had to shoo her away. However, Peggy and his relationship were the most dangerous, and to be fair, he did intervene with Peggy's reality the most. Then Ultron comes out of nowhere, to which Uatu at first is terrified because Ultron has a horrible track record. They successfully get Uatu out of there while Ultron temporarily holds off the Order of the Watchers. Birdie decides to lose them in the seams of the multiverse. The Eminence then grabs Ultron's head like Thanos' division and blows the head clean off. Peggy tells him to run to Strange's universe where Strange shapes reality. Unfortunately, killing Ultron causes the ship to lose power and the Order stops them. They land on a planet a few universes short of Strange's. The Order tosses the group like a bunch of rag dolls, and to survive the attack, Uatu offers they take the oath to survive. As mortals, they can't touch the Order, but as Watchers, they may have a better chance. Once the oath is complete, we see all 5 pair of their eyes light up blue like the Watchers. Uatu then zaps out of his standard cloak into his armor. He uses the same transition when he fights Ultron to acquire his suit in the last episodes. The animation is also done in the same way, flashing between color to black and white particles. The Order pulls out a bunch of weapons. The Eminence gets these gauntlets, Executioner gets a blade, and the Incarnate with a bat with spikes, which is such an insane choice of weapon. Then the fight of the century begins. Peggy's hitting Eminence upside his big ol' head. Incarnate winds up and hits her with a Babe Ruth special just to get kicked in his chest by Birdie and sucker punched by Kahhori. The matchup just ain't fair, but I ain't rooting for the Order, so this is good for me. Executioner takes on Storm with Mjolnir, gets clocked. She winds it up and smashes Eminence just for his big head to palm that hammer like Hela and Ragnarok. Luckily, it recognizes who's worthy and spins the fool, distracting him enough to let Uatu get him with a sleeper punch. The battle is truly endless, and Uatu discloses his name, which is the first time to people because Peggy and Kahhori are like, you know what? Hell yeah. Peggy's shield gets sliced into 2, which doesn't stop her, so she starts slinging that bad boy like a frisbee just to reconnect it at the end. Birdie flies up in the air using all her power. She's channeling her energy like she did in the baby episode, and I hate that this moment is taken away by the Eminence calling her a heretic. But genuinely, it is kind of funny. At this moment, we see Storm free falling and is playing the X-Men animated theme music. Eminence then Hulk smashes Storm and Birdie just like he did Loki, just to get a flying knee kick to the face. As everyone continues facing off, Eminence and Uatu butt heads, creating a large explosive reaction until Uatu and the team finally have them pinned, begging them to yield. Because of Uatu's good nature, he begs them to stop fighting. Then the Order pulls into one large being with a plan to erase them from every universe. Every moment of them will be ripped from their realities. No one will ever know who they are. As their bodies break away like particles, it doesn't stop Peggy with their last bit of strength. She recovers and leaps, going Super Saiyan and smashing into the Order, causing an even bigger explosion and then implosion. We cut back to everyone on the dark side of this planet, and there's no Peggy in sight. However, the Watcher's powers aren't working because they've made it to Strange's universe. He is a living universe where he has absolute power and restricted these powers from being used there. Uatu tells Eminence that he's learned from everyone he's been watching. Unlike Eminence, they really never learn, they just observe. That's why they didn't expect Ultron to change or Peggy to sacrifice herself to show what their realities are really about. They bid farewell to Peggy, holding her shield, when Uatu reminds them that maybe she's watching over them in another universe or reality because he can feel something or someone watching. Kahhori says, "My people believe that in death we move on to an even greater adventure," and as we saw in her episode, that's absolutely true. Then Uatu takes us out the best way he knows how as we flash across realities with 6-armed Spider-Man, a samurai Ghost Rider on horseback, Punisher Riri Williams, Gamora in a white dress, I wonder if she married Star-Lord here, Moon Knight Blade, Wolverine Thanos, Iron Man Kingo, Miss Marvel Wasp, Maestro Hulk as Sorcerer Supreme, Scarlet Witch Howard the Duck, Beta Ray Bill Hawkeye, Jubilee meets Silver Surfer, I think, Skrull Captain America, Dane Whitman and Cersei Dancing, Overarmed Deadpool, Baby Hela, Star-Lord Shang-Chi, Lady Loki, VR Infinite Scarlet Witch, which I only know because we played it on Break Room, And then that closes the series finale for What If. The last 2 episodes were okay. I think the series finale might have been a little too crazy for me because everyone could just become the Watcher now. Give me a break. Though, if you were a bit confused like me a little bit, Eric does give a really good ending explain that you can always refer back to. I'll leave it linked right here below. And that's it for my series finale breakdown for What If, their final breakdown for us. Thank you, Brandon Barrick, and big super thanks to our writer, Noah Chen. Noah helps me write all the time, all my breakdowns here at New Rockstars, and I cannot echo his mighty work on this one enough. Thank you. Thank you so much, Noah. Thank you for watching. Comment down below your thoughts on the finale, on the full season, and how there's never gonna be another What If. Or maybe there will be. Maybe in 5 years, they'll call it a reboot or a remaster. Follow me at Lulu_Clemons. Subscribe to all 3 channels in the New Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.